Wohnimmobilienkreditrichtlinie. You can also say WIKR. Why are banks so restrictive although interest rates are so low? The German adaptation of a European directive. This European directive aims at avoiding a structural risk for the banking system as well as preventing people from having difficulties to pay off their mortgage. The main effect of this regulation is that banks have to make sure that the borrowers can effectively pay their debt. This ability to repay has to be ensured independently of the collateral of the loan. The German interpretation of the European directive was considered too restrictive by many professionals. Therefore, a modification of the WIKR was brought a year later. This modification also made some special cases clear so that banks and buyers now know exactly what to expect. Before WIKR, banks were allowed to consider as risk-free the part of the credit that did not exceed 60% of the collateral value of the home. This made it possible for retired people, for low-income families, and for independent workers to access to a mortgage. Since the 20th of March 2016, banks have to check that the customer will probably repay without relying on the value of the asset. This implies in many cases that you have to retire debt-free because your retirement is lower than your current wage. The WIKR also contains other restrictions. For example, if you borrow money in another currency than the euro, the bank has to carry the risk of change. If you plan to have children, you will have extra expenses, for example for school, food or clothes, and this reduces the available cash flow your bank will use for the computation. Relying on other income sources than your day job has also become harder. If in the future you have difficulties with your monthly payments, the bank will have to justify that they measured reasonably your ability to pay at the time you took the loan. To avoid this kind of problems, the banks will rather reject your loan appliance. The risk for you is to be rejected by many banks, so you may have difficulties to find a bank that accepts to give you a loan. People with low income but high down payment were previously eligible for a mortgage. They have now more difficulties to find a lending bank. Also, people with irregular income or irregular expenses have more difficulties after the application of the WIKR. Buyers in Munich put more money down than in the German average. Due to the higher prices, they also put more of their income to the mortgage payments. People with high income can show that they will have no difficulties to pay the mortgage. The WIKR only applies when the borrower is a private person. If you build a company like a GmbH for this purpose, you will not be affected. However, check well before if this is profitable. Generally, this kind of construct is not profitable when dealing with only one property. Another solution is to finance without a bank. For example, you can find a private investor. Disclaimer: I am not a lawyer. I just give here some general knowledge with my own words. So, if you need some precise information about this law, please consult a specialized lawyer.
Do you want to buy a flat in Munich? I give you knowledge about ownership in the city, a proven, successful preparation for your own flat. Subscribe and visit flatinmunich.de.